Martell Holt and Arionne Curry's relationship has always been one that captures attention, confusion, and emotion all at once. It's a story that seems to never settle, one that continues to unfold even when people think it has finally ended. This time, things have reached a new level. According to insiders, Martell has found himself pushed to a point where emotions have taken over reason. Arionne, known for her confidence and strong personality, reportedly said or did something that shook Martell in ways no one expected. What followed left everyone stunned, an emotional confrontation that showed just how complicated their history really is. People close to the situation describe Martell as calm, measured, and often careful in how he handles himself, even when emotions are running high. But this time was different. Arionne managed to get under his skin in a way that very few people ever could. It wasn't a single argument or one heated moment, it was the result of a slow build-up. There had been tension between them for a while, little disagreements and emotional jabs that had been adding pressure over time. The atmosphere was already heavy before things finally came to a breaking point. Sources revealed that the moment started out as something ordinary, nothing that looked like it would explode. It could have been a conversation, a misunderstanding, or a small disagreement that got out of hand. But for Martell, it wasn't just about the words that were said, it was about everything that had been building beneath the surface for months. People in the room noticed the change in his tone, his posture, and even his silence. It was as if he was trying to hold himself together, fighting against a wave of emotion that had been building for far too long. Arionne, on the other hand, wasn't one to back down. She's always been vocal, direct, and unafraid to speak her truth, even when it comes with backlash. Insiders say she had been trying to make a point, maybe to assert herself, maybe to defend her side, but whatever it was, it hit a nerve. It tested Martell's patience and brought emotions he had buried straight to the surface. That's when the confrontation began to shift from calm disagreement to something far more emotional and personal. Observers say that every word between them seemed to carry weight. Every look, every pause, every tone became a message on its own. The air felt heavy, like everyone in the room could sense something big was about to happen. It wasn't just about the present moment, it was about everything that had been left unsaid for years. For Martell, it felt like orbit. That's what makes this latest encounter so powerful. Martell wasn't just reacting to the moment, he was reacting to everything that had come before it. Reports suggest that the argument grew intense, but not in a reckless way. It was emotional, but there was also honesty. Martell began to open up about feelings he had been suppressing. For once, he didn't hide behind calm words or distant explanations. He spoke from the heart, expressing things he had likely kept to himself for far too long. Those who heard him say that it wasn't about anger, it was about being overwhelmed, tired, and emotionally exhausted. And through that, something unexpected happened, a moment of vulnerability that no one saw coming. According to people who were around, Martell expressed that he still cared deeply for Arionne. He admitted that, despite everything, a part of him still wanted to fix things, to bring some peace back into what had become a stormy connection. His words carried a mix of pain, love, and regret. It wasn't a dramatic performance, it was real emotion from someone who has been struggling to move on but can't fully let go. The scene reportedly took a surprising turn when Martell, after all the frustration and raised voices, shifted the tone. He started speaking softly, calmly, almost as if the fight had drained everything out of him. Sources say that was when he made a heartfelt plea, asking Arionne to reconsider walking away completely. The tension turned into silence as he told her he didn't want to keep fighting, that he wanted to make things right. It wasn't arrogance or manipulation, it was a man at his breaking point, realizing he still loved the woman who had caused him so much confusion and conflict. This moment left everyone shocked because Martell is rarely the one to show emotional vulnerability in public or around others. He's always carried himself with pride and control, never wanting to seem weak or desperate. But love has a way of stripping all that away. In that moment, his feelings were undeniable. He was no longer the polished man from television, he was someone standing in front of a woman he still loved, trying to make sense of what had gone wrong. Sources close to Arionne say she didn't respond immediately. She was taken aback by his tone, by how genuine and raw his words sounded. She's seen many sides of Martell, the confident one, the defensive one, the proud one, but this was different. This was the side of him that wasn't trying to win an argument or protect his image. This was the side that was asking her to listen, to see the part of him that still wanted to make things right. As they talked, the emotions in the room shifted from confrontation to reflection. What started as anger turned into something quieter, heavier, and more meaningful. They began revisiting their past, not as enemies or rivals, but as two people who had shared something real. Martell reportedly talked about the mistakes he made, about how things spiraled out of control between them, and how he wished some moments had gone differently. People who overheard pieces of the conversation described it as emotional and sincere. Martell didn't hold back from taking accountability. He said he understood how his actions had hurt her, but he also admitted that he was hurt too, hurt by how things ended, hurt by the walls that had been built between them, and hurt by the way their story had been twisted in the public eye. It was a confession that many didn't expect, especially from someone who's often seen as guarded and unshaken. Arionne, for her part, listened but kept her composure. Those who know her say she has always been strong-willed and independent. She doesn't like being told what to do, and she doesn't easily fall for emotional gestures. But deep down, she also carries her own pain, her own unresolved feelings about Martell. The two share a history that's impossible to erase, no matter how much time passes or how many arguments they have. What made this conversation so intense was not just what was said, but what it represented. It was a breaking of pride on both sides. Martell, a man who had always tried to appear in control, was openly asking for forgiveness, and Arionne, a woman who had always stood her ground, was quietly listening instead of reacting. It was the kind of moment that reminded people why their story continues to draw attention, because beneath all the chaos, there's still something deeply human and emotional there. Insiders say that after Martell's emotional plea, there was a long pause. Neither of them spoke for a while. It was as if both were processing the reality of what had just happened. For Martell, it was the release of everything he'd been holding in. For Arionne, it was realizing that the man who once caused her so much pain was now standing in front of her, asking for another chance. Eventually, Arionne spoke. Her response wasn't dramatic, but it was firm. She reminded him of all the times things had fallen apart, of the promises that weren't kept, and the pain that came from trying to fix something that never seemed to stay together. But even in her firmness, there was a softness, a sign that she still cared, even if she didn't want to admit it. People who witnessed it said her tone was calm, steady, but her eyes told a different story. As the conversation continued, it became clear that both Martell and Arionne were caught between the past and the present. There was love, but there was also pain. There was longing, but there was also fear. They had reached a point where they had to decide whether holding on was worth more than letting go. It's something many people who've been through complicated relationships can understand, that push and pull between love and self-protection. The aftermath of this moment didn't end when the conversation stopped. Those close to both of them noticed changes in how they behaved afterward. Martell became quieter, more reflective. He wasn't as quick to post or speak out publicly. It seemed like he was taking time to process everything that had been said, trying to figure out what to do next. Some say he started to reach out more privately, making small gestures to show Arionne that he meant what he said. Arionne, on the other hand, kept things more private. She didn't speak publicly about it, but people close to her say she was deeply affected by the exchange. Even if she didn't show it, she was thinking about everything that had happened, the words, the emotions, and what it all meant for their future. Over time, there were quiet signs that Martell was still hoping for reconciliation. Sources say he made efforts to reach out, to check in, to show that he was serious about rebuilding trust. He wasn't loud about it, and he didn't make it public. It was more personal this time, more intentional. He reportedly told friends that he just wanted peace, that he was tired of the chaos and the distance, and that he wanted to find a way to start over, even if it was small. For Martell, this moment represented a kind of emotional growth. After everything he's been through publicly, the drama, the heartbreak, the criticism, this was different. It wasn't about appearances or defending himself. It was about being honest with someone who still meant something to him, no matter how complicated things had become. People who know Martell say that this confrontation with Arionne forced him to reflect on his choices and the person he's become. It wasn't just about trying to fix a relationship, it was about understanding himself. He began realizing that pride, ego, and defensiveness had cost him more than he thought. And in trying to ask Arionne to come back, he wasn't just asking for another relationship, he was asking for a second chance at doing things differently. Arionne, meanwhile, is said to have been torn. She's strong and independent, but she also has a history with Martell that's hard to walk away from completely. The two share memories, emotions, and a kind of connection that's rare. Even when she's angry, even when she's distant, there's always that part of her that remembers the man she once cared about deeply. Over the following days, fans started noticing subtle signs online, cryptic posts, reflective quotes, and indirect messages that hinted at emotional tension. Neither Martell nor Arionne confirmed anything, but people could tell something had shifted. The tone of their posts, the timing, even their silence spoke volumes. It was clear that something big had happened behind the scenes, and it left people wondering whether this was the beginning of a reconciliation or the final goodbye. Insiders say that while Martell made it clear he wanted to fix things, Arionne wasn't ready to make a decision. She needed time to think, to process everything that had been said and done. And honestly, that made sense. After all the ups and downs, it's not easy to just jump back into something so emotionally charged. She wanted to make sure that if she did give him another chance, it would be for the right reasons, not just because of emotions in the heat of the moment. As more time passed, both of them seemed to be in a period of reflection. Martell reportedly began focusing on personal growth and emotional healing, while still trying to keep communication open with Arionne. He understood that winning her back wasn't about grand gestures this time. It was about consistency, patience, and showing change through actions, not just words. People close to the situation say that this entire experience taught both of them valuable lessons about communication, respect, and emotional boundaries. For Martell, it was about learning to listen and to understand that love requires vulnerability, not control. For Arionne, it was about recognizing the difference between strength and emotional distance, that sometimes being open doesn't mean being weak, it means being real. Despite the tension and emotional weight of everything, some insiders believe this confrontation might have been a turning point for both. It forced them to face uncomfortable truths, to say things that had been buried, and to acknowledge feelings that neither of them had wanted to admit. And in doing so, it may have opened the door for genuine healing, whether that means getting back together or finally finding peace apart. Even though fans and followers continue to speculate about what's next for Martell and Arionne, one thing is certain: this chapter revealed sides of them that most people never saw before. It wasn't about public drama or social media games. It was about two people dealing with real emotions, trying to make sense of a complicated love story that refuses to fade away. As of now, the relationship remains uncertain. But what's clear is that Martell's emotional plea to Arionne wasn't just a moment of weakness. It was an expression of real feelings, perhaps even a realization that love, no matter how complicated, still holds power over both of them. Whether she decides to come back or not, this encounter has already changed the way they see each other and themselves. The story between Martell Holt and Arionne Curry continues to evolve, and each chapter seems to bring a deeper understanding of who they are and what they mean to each other. Sometimes, love doesn't end neatly, it lingers, teaches, and tests. And for Martell and Arionne, this emotional confrontation may have been just that, a moment of truth, one that could either bring them closer than ever or finally give them the closure they've both needed all along.